Hey everybody, I'm going to give you a brief video that will be, and I do these for every week. They're designed to say what's going on in the coming week, some of the things to look out for, and just a little more guidance to help you get through the week. And so we'll go ahead and start it for this first week of class. This is obviously, goes in a little bit deeper than what I'd done in the overview of the class, which that was the introduction to class video. And I realize here there's a thing that says my take assignments. I'm going to just point out to you guys that we're not going to do those in this summer class. So I'm going to take that out of the schedule. It's not going to be part of the schedule, so don't worry about doing that. There's going to be something to help you understand how to do discussion posts. I'll get that out early this week. And then I want you to sign up for the one-on-one, which I believe I added for the purposes of this class because there's only two of you. Just respond to my email that I sent out earlier in the day. And just give me 3 times when you could potentially meet with me, and I'll set up a Google Meets, to confirm that we have that time set up. But now there are going to be some what I would call micro lectures, and I'm not going to leave that. I have a lot of them, but I'm not going to use that many of them in this particular class because you're going to be reading the text and doing quizzes through that. So I don't think they really are just kind of duplicative. I don't really want to do that. So we're going to talk about why marketing is important. That's what's essentially what Chapter 1's all about. And I'm going to give you that some information about that in a micro lecture. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, the micro lectures that I'm producing are from other classes, but it covers the exact same material. What I don't want you to do is get hung up on if I say, oh, you got to do a my take assignment, or you have some other kind of assignment attached to it. Unless I specify it for class here, you don't. Okay, so I kind of whittled some of those things down just because we're covering so much in such a short period of time. So there's not quite as much as we have in the 16-week class. So those are really just for content purposes. So we talk about why marketing is important. There's one also out there that talks about there'll be other types of material out there. But I can tell you for this class, the extra video content, that is to solidify your understanding of what you're reading about in the text. And so it's optional, but I strongly suggest you read it and get what you can out of it because, again, texts are fairly... I'm trying to think of the right word here. They're conservative in terms of information they're putting out there that is not necessarily things that have happened in the past. So it's kind of a rear view of marketing. So I'm going to try to add some other things in there that are kind of got to start looking forward a little bit more. Okay, so the very first of those is what I think is a very important part of marketing, and that's how artificial intelligence and big data are just absolutely shaping marketing at this point. So I put out a micro lecture out there on that. I would strongly suggest you watch that. And then the supplemental material is really, really helpful to kind of frame what this whole thing means about, what is artificial intelligence and the 4 Ps, and there's a lot of things that go into this, how it's changing jobs in the future. But start with the one called Big Data in 5 minutes because it gives you the framework for what big data really is. Okay. But I definitely suggest you go through those, all right? Now, there's an optional little module there that's called Financial Statement Overviews. If you've never taken an accounting class, really don't understand that much about financial statements, it's not that big of a deal, but we do refer to certain financial measures as we do marketing, and I think it's important to understand how that kind of fits in from a finance standpoint. It's a very brief thing to go through. It's very, very basic. If you've ever taken an accounting class or a finance class, you don't need to go through it. I'm sure you're familiar with the terms and what's involved. But if you haven't, it's worth taking a few minutes to go through that little module. And then you also, because of our accelerated class here, you're going to be covering Chapter 2 this week as well. and that's about customer behavior and what goes into that. And then I'm also giving you a separate module on what a marketing plan is, and I'll put that out there as a separate module within week 1. That'll come out later on in the week. And then the last thing we're going to do, like we need to run anything else, but the last thing we're going to do is introduce you to the term project, which is building a marketing plan. And I'll give you some of the background information and things like that. And as I mentioned, in introductory information, the marketing plan is built as they are in the business world. They're built steps at a time. And each one of those steps represents something called a milestone. So we'll have 4 milestones that'll address very specific parts of the marketing plan. And by the time you're done, here's the good news. If you've done it well and you've taken my feedback and incorporated it into your document that you turned in, putting together the final project is really not going to be that big of a deal. I know it's hard to believe that at this point, but it really won't be. So we're going to build it a piece at a time, and then we're just going to put it together, which is essentially what happens at the end. Okay, but that's a separate information, and we'll put out a separate video on it, and I'll make sure that's out there under week 1. Okay, now all these things here, for example, in the let's take the customer behavior module. This article on time to market and agile marketing, those are very commonly referred to objectives of marketing, and they're influencing in a big way how marketing plans are built. So I strongly suggest you go through those. It's going to give you some real solid knowledge about how marketing plans are changing. So the typical way that marketing plans are described is pretty formulaic, I guess would be my way of putting it. And these two concepts, time to market and agile marketing, are absolutely reshaping those in a big way. So again, to get kind of like on forward looking on this, look over that content as well. Okay, so that's it for week 1. I know it's a lot. So, and by the way, we're probably doing more in week 1 than we do in most of the other weeks anyway. So that's a big thing. What else is happening in week 1? You have your original post. This is a pretty easy one. By Thursday of this week, make sure you've done your introductory post for basically for me and your classmate, and then reply to that classmate's post by by Sunday, which would be the 8th, June 8th. So make sure you've done those things. We're not looking for long, drawn out things. It's a discussion post. It's just introducing ourselves, talking about who we are. I consider this type of thing as being a really important part of getting to know each other and starting to build this, our little network up. That is so important that you do that. Okay, so that's week 1. Again, there's more to come for week 1. The marketing plan module, you see I'm going to have a video lecture on marketing plan primer, and then I'll also have something coming up where we're going to talk about the final project. I'll put out some information on that as well. And then this AI and big data and marketing and those things, those are again they're supplemental, but I just think they're really, really important that you kind of get your arms around it. Okay, so that's it. That's what's going on with week 1. And so make sure you've completed all the things on the list. Make sure you've signed up for the text. Make sure you've done the two quizzes. Make sure you've done your profile. Make sure we got a date set up to have a one-on-one kind of a meeting. And that one-on-one meeting, believe me, it's 15 minutes. If it's longer, it's because we really want it to be longer. So it's probably going to be taken care of in about 15 minutes, one way or another. But give me 3 different times you can do that by responding to that email I sent out earlier in the day. Okay, so complete all those things, and there's I think it's 30 extra credit points in there for you. So that's not too bad, and it's very doable. So, but you kind of have to embrace this and kind of jump in and get moving on engaging in the class. If you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to ask, and good luck. And again, if there's anything that you need clarification on or whatever, please let me know.